What's up, everybody? Welcome to the SWAT MMA podcast. My name is Jarrod. I'm here with Paul.
What up?
Coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada. This is episode number 161, and today we're going to be talking all about UFC 285, Jones versus Gane. We're going to talk about BKFC 37. We're going to take a look ahead to next week's UFC card, seeing the return of Peter Yan. Before we get to the combat sports, though, you know what time it is. Grab your weed, fire it up. Let's get into the weed of the week.
Smoke weed every day.
What are we smoking on today, Paul?
Alrighty, so this week we are smoking on some Dole Whip. So this one's going to be a 60-40 sativa indica hybrid. It's going to be a mix of tropical truffles and cookies and cream.
Tropical truffles and cookies and cream. This has a very pleasant kind of citrusy, orangey taste.
Yeah, so this one's coming in at a 21.5 THC. Got some really, interesting information here from this QR code that was on the weed.
I like this brand. This is made by a company called Road Tripper.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. On the label they have this one from the dispensary. You just click this little QR code on the packaging. It has like all the strain info, like all their testing info of like, lab tested and all that,
chemical testing,
all that shit. And yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
I like this weed a lot. I prefer sativa, and I prefer a weed that tastes like this. Kind of orangish, citrusy, real smooth.
Yeah.
Makes sense with the genetics. Another thing I like about this brand is that it's one of the least expensive brands in Vegas that you can buy at particular dispensaries. And that doesn't mean, in this case, low quality. I've actually tried several of their strains. I've only had one that was a little bit questionable on the cure, giving it that slightly hay taste. Sometimes it happens, but seriously, out of like 10 purchases, one bag being maybe iffy is not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, here in fucking Vegas, that's a problem.
Yeah. I like usually I get that brand because at the dispensary they always have different like kind of deals and shit. One time I got a half with 4 different quarters of 2 goddamn an ounce. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
But 4 different quarters of this strains weed.
I was waiting for that to click
I
in
was
your
like,
head.
wait a second, 4 quarters. No, but yeah. So I've tried a lot of different other strains, and they just do things the right way for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We got some of that uppercut from Tyson left over from last week as well, plus a couple of vape pens with. I got something from Trendy I bought. I can't remember what it is now anymore. Candy cane, something or the other.
Yeah,
Just
that cantaloupe one I had from last week too.
That's nice. So we got plenty of things to smoke on.
Yes, sir.
Binoid CBD is sponsoring the Weed of the Week this week. You can get the best deals on CBD products as well as Delta 9 THC products and more. Most of them legal in all 50 states. Just go to our website, swatmma.com. Click on the cool stuff button. You'll know where to go from there.
Speaking of smoked, let's talk about UFC 285. So last night we had Jon Jones take on Cyril Gane in a really pivotal fight in the career and legacy of Jon Jones, and he just came out and fucking did what he always does: dominated, made it look easy, and just more and more and more cements his legacy as the unquestionable greatest MMA fighter who's ever lived.
I think the expression I used last week when we were discussing this fight is I said that Jon Jones is going to come out and just steamroll him.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. In fact, we believe so strongly that we went down to the sportsbook and bet on it, which we don't always do. We always like to make picks, but doesn't mean we're always throwing money at them.
Yeah.
But it was a nice come up for both of us on that. And I don't even know why that was
by submission.
I don't know why that was not.
Yeah, the prop.
I don't know the odds on that though.
The prop was plus 365.
And it was plus 550 at one point.
Yeah. Probably just people kept throwing.
I mean, how else did you think he was going to win?
Yeah.
But whatever. People believed in what when I used to mispronounce his name, I called it the Gane train. It doesn't work so well with the Gane train. But I've never been a believer. I didn't think this dude was this
Jones
revolutionary figure. I don't get it. I didn't get it before. I didn't get it when they're giving him an interim title shot. I didn't believe any of the hype a year ago.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
He made short work of that fool. That guy didn't know what to do. He couldn't even stay off the cage.
Yeah.
Like, John Jones took the center of the octagon immediately, started backing him up immediately. And that's after taking a nut shot. The guy comes out, kicks him in the nuts. Gane kicks Jones in the nuts at like the 7-second mark.
Yeah.
A pretty solid blow.
Mm-hmm.
That was his best blow of the fight, by the way.
Yeah.
Jones could have taken, I would have taken longer to recover, but whatever.
Jones said he didn't feel it. He just wanted the referee to know what happened.
Did he? Okay, I missed that part, but good.
Yeah, he said that he had seen Gane do similar things in past fights where he had gotten away with it because people would just shrug it off and try to keep the momentum of the fight going. And he was like, I was not allowing that to happen. He kicked me low. I showed the referee what was going on, and kept going. Makes sense.
Good for him.
Yeah.
But he controlled the center. He pushed him up against the cage. He took him down. Got back up. Took him down again. And he winds up choking him out in this weird sitting position where I think the commentators were saying that's not tight as soon as he started tapping.
Yeah.
It looked
very
awkward.
Strange. It was because he had his upper body on the cage, but then he kind of cranked his head. It
reminded me a little
weird.
bit of the way he choked out Machida. It was different, but it was just reminiscent to me of it.
Mm-hmm. Very similar. It was a quick tap by Gane too.
He didn't want none of that fucking smoke, man.
Yeah.
Now everybody's like, oh, yeah, well, what do you expect? Jones is the greatest. Yeah, all you motherfuckers were talking mad shit beforehand. Like, the internet was filled with people talking. Like go on, like, some of these websites and go back and look at their picks and look how many people were picking fucking Cyril to win this fight.
Yeah.
And we kept hearing about Dominic Reyes and Anthony Smith and Thiago Santos.
Yeah.
And some of that criticism was valid, but it was never backed up with the balancing point of John Jones was bored at this point of what he was doing.
Yeah.
John Jones is no longer bored. He took 3 years. He did it the right way. That's a big bulk up. Then there were some idiots talking about how he looked fat this week, which I thought was absurd. Do you think he's going to come out looking like a bodybuilder? It's not a bodybuilding competition.
Well, and the whole thing was he's never been that. Like, he's never been like this huge, bulky, like beach muscle guy.
No.
Even when he was at light heavyweight, that was always a joke that people would say, which also ended up being a big reason was he wasn't training. But this time it was his training. He just has a different body style now.
Dude, he's very big. I don't know what people were saying.
Yeah,
he's very large. He's not fat at all. That's bulk, son.
Yeah.
And he looked very fast. He looked very capable.
Yeah.
For supposedly being, what was his coach calling him, Lopez, the other day, Gane? He was calling him, like, having revolutionized the heavyweight division. Well,
revolutionized striking in the heavyweight.
He got his ass revolutionized by fucking John Jones.
Yeah.
I'm just, in the words of the eternal great Nate Diaz, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Yeah, not at all.
I only wish I could have bet more.
Yeah, me too.
I really wish I was reckless at this
me
point.
too, because it was so obvious that he was going to sub him, too. It was just like a matter of time.
I didn't think it would be that quick. I didn't think it was going to be the first round shit. I did say he was going to steamroll him, but I didn't expect it to be like
a zero, like out, like.
The shit barely started and it was over.
Yeah, it was over quickly. Made short work.
Embarrassing. Just embarrassing. I hope that whole team is embarrassed.
It should be.
He talked all that shit. He was, even in the press conference, he really wasn't even that humble. Cyril wasn't, because he was sitting there saying ridiculous shit to me, like, "Well, this is my first real true loss." No, you got decision by Ngannou with 2 blown out knees. Son.
Even Dana said some shit like that, dude. Dana said that if he never would have let Francis take his back or some bullshit like that, I can't remember that. Oh no, he said if Cyril Gane never went for a heel hook versus Francis, he wins that fight. I was like, what?
Are you smoking crack?
Yeah, that's literally what he said. He goes, this fight was like an actual, beat down for Gane. That's what Dana said. So both of them kind of ran with the same narrative. Like, they were like, oh, this is the first time Gane really got beat. If you really look at the Francis fight, so I think they're part of the people feeding him that narrative too. It's not just his team; it's the UFC too. Because if Dana White's saying that shit, like, what the fuck, dude?
It's just another way to shit on Francis.
It is, yeah. And then all of this is. Because if you look at the end of the fight, when Dana White says he was scared, he was this, he was that, and then John, and after press conference says, you got all that muscle, but you're still a pussy. That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But I do think, like, it's just all a big, like, let's move on narrative for the UFC. And for all the right reasons, because I do think in a scenario where that's Francis Ngannou last night, I don't think it ends very differently. I think John subs Francis too. I just don't see anybody at heavyweight that John's really going to give the time of day to want to put any kind of work in on the feet with them. Because it's not that he's scared or that he's going to.
It's just that at heavyweight, anybody can knock anybody out, and he doesn't need to fucking. Why take that risk?
Yeah.
I mean, he stood with Gane for a little while. Why would you not? Dude, he just manhandled him. He sunned him.
Yeah. And that's the same thing he could do with all these other heavyweights.
Sure, why not? Like, I mean, his toughest test will be Stipe, and he'll win that fight. And that's coming from. I'm a big fan of Stipe Miocic. Yeah. I love that dude.
Yeah.
Stipe's been bulking up. There should be a different Stipe when it comes to that fight. He bulked up for Francis because he felt that the size really played a difference in that last fight.
Yeah.
And he's been, putting in solid work too. He says he's actually heavier than Jones now. So I imagine he's 250, 255. I don't think he's much bigger. Yeah. But in his interviews last night, Stipe's, you could tell he was large.
Yeah. I don't know.
Jones's response to that is, it's not a bodybuilding contest. Once again, he's right. I don't expect it to go like Cyril. No. It'll be a real fight.
Yeah.
But I expect John to be victorious, most likely by a decision, possibly a later round submission, maybe.
I hate to play MMA math here, but
it's hard to do. So
it's hard not to, because like when you look at prior opponents, I like to really point to Daniel Cormier kind of being both Stipe and Jones' best opponent, and they're just two very different levels of like how they handled it. Like John Jones never gives his opponents the respect or time of day to ever get any kind of offense going, to ever get any kind of momentum going whatsoever. John is
for the most part,
go in there and shut everything down you got going on. But I feel like sometimes Stipe in his last couple of fights and his career overall is he kind of has these lulls in fights where he goes in and like when he has his moments, they're great. But then like he'll have these little lulls where you see some of his opponents have like success and then you're like, whoa, but then he shuts it down after that. And I think if you give John Jones any kind of opportunity like that, he's just going to do too much with it and you're going to lose the fight.
I think Stipe has the athleticism to hang with Jones for a while, and I think he has the fight IQ to do it as well. But they're not equally comparable, the John Jones, Cormier, and the Stipe, because they did take place at much different weights.
Yeah.
And that does play a factor. Because DC cutting weight down to 205 is not the same as DC at 236. It's just not. I mean,
I guess he carried more knockout power, I would say.
He does, and he fights a little bit different too. Yeah. But there's a lot of comparisons clearly to be made there. Although MMA math is pretty tricky.
Yeah.
I think that Stipe will take this fight very seriously. Not that he didn't take the others, but I mean he's fighting Ngannou. He has to worry about one particular thing that Ngannou does, and he got caught with the thing that Ngannou does.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck.
Yeah.
It's not, to me, it's not the end of the world. And it's just, that's what Ngannou does to people. And it's the heavyweight. So it's not like he was a lightweight and he got decimated by some guy. Like, holy fuck. We see heavyweights kind of get knocked out. It doesn't necessarily mean he's chinned.
Yeah, no. I don't
know what I mean? I think his chin is still solid. People talk about his age. They're like, oh, he's 40. And Jones is 37. We were talking 36 months. And I don't really see that. The inactivity shouldn't matter because, okay, so Jones will have had this 2-minute fight where he fucking sunned up fucking Gane. He's not shaking off the ring rust with that, so to speak. So I think that balances out between the two of them. The size should be about equal.
I think John's a little longer.
But I don't think that all things being equal on these men that Stipe on his best day beats Jones on Jones's best day. I just don't. I love him, but I don't think Jones is the best, dude.
Yeah.
We've never seen anything that would point to Jones being in trouble, really. No one's beat him.
Yeah.
No one's fucking whooped that ass. He hasn't done an Anderson Silva, really. I mean, he had that first fight against Gustafsson where he was down and then he came back, but it wasn't like Chael Anderson where he won in the last 1 minute of a fight he lost 4.5 rounds of.
Yeah.
He didn't have this shit. He's never really been in any trouble. People want to point to Dominic Reyes. It was still a unanimous decision win, so say what you will. They point to Thiago Santos, the split.
Who cares?
I mean, and isn't that all in the past now? I mean, look what he's doing here. That was sublime.
Yeah, and I think people put a little too much faith in the idea of John was not doing shit in his time off. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like a lot of people were like when they were talking about him taking 3 years off, they were making it sound like he was like 3 years off and he was just kicking it. Like, nah, this fool took 3 years off and trained his fucking ass off every day of those 3 years.
Absolutely.
And got ready to do what he wanted to do.
He got up to
night.
267 with muscle mass.
Yeah.
And he felt way too fucking big, he said.
Real quickly, though, I do want to just a small rebuttal to what you were talking about with Stipe.
No.
I feel like in Stipe's like big fights, he's had those things that he had to have in his head. Like, he knew Daniel Cormier had elite wrestling, and he knew Daniel had like a pretty solid power coming his way. Francis, he knew it was otherworldly power that could erase him. With John, he has all of that. John could do any of that shit. John can finish him on the feet. I think John could finish him on the ground. I think like that's like the only difference I think with John Jones and everybody else in the UFC. If you look at John Jones' career as a whole, he has finished and he has dominated in every single facet of the game. Yeah. And there's not a single one that you can look back and point to and be like, but he's kind of okay at this, and he's kind of okay at no. Every single facet of John Jones's game is elite, and I just don't think that there's anybody else you can really compare. Like, on the Stipe side of things, like, it's not his fault that he's there. John Jones is an otherworldly talent. There's no other way of putting it.
He's the one.
Yeah, he's the one. Like, there's just certain guys that it's just not fair. You know, it's everybody else out there is just not fair for them. And that's just what he's going to run into with John.
It shouldn't even be a question that he regains his spot at the top of the pound for pound.
Oh, yeah.
It shouldn't even be a question that he's the greatest mixed martial artist of all time at this point. If that didn't fucking seal it. Yeah. And I don't, you know me, I don't like to even say that when people are still active. But, I mean, look at his resume.
There's no other resume you can really compare it to. Because, like, even if you want to, like, let's just play a little game just for fun right now. You know, even if you want to be like Demetrius Johnson or Khabib. Demetrius Johnson and Khabib are in GSP as well. But those three are probably the closest like you could ever compare to. But I think all three of those resumes has flaws that John's don't. Yeah. You know, I think when you look at Khabib didn't defend the title long enough. He didn't have enough UFC wins when you compare.
And his
to John.
resume doesn't compare.
His resume doesn't
begin to compare. He's got some top level talent at the end when he fought. You know,
those last three.
The last three.
Yeah.
But that wasn't. It pales in comparison to Jones's record, light heavyweight defenses. And now the move to the heavyweight division and winning that title on top of it.
And then when you look at DJ, like DJ on his way out, he ends up losing. He's had those early losses in his career where he was just coming along and like he really turned into the flyweight GOAT in front of our eyes. Yeah. Whereas John has always been the GOAT since he stepped into
there. He was shocking.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Amazing skill set.
The only person you could ever really honestly have a solid argument about is, I would say, GSP and Jones, just because GSP is damn near as flawless as Jones.
GSP did move up a weight class, but then there's this weird little asterisk because of who he fought. I'm not trying to throw shade at Bisping, but it's just...
Damn, think so?
I don't I don't think it's as big a deal as I hear it's made, but I mean, yeah, you can go online and read some forums. Just some people are definitely on that tip. Like Bisping had no business actually being the champ. He got lucky against Rockhold, and he beat fucking Dan Henderson, and then GSP cleaned him up with his diverticulitis or whatever the fuck he had going on. I don't know. I'm not. I like Bisping. I'm not of that mindset, but it's an argument that can be made. And we've got the loss to Matt Serra, and we've got, Johnny Hendricks. Yeah. He did win that fight, but that's kind of similar. I guess you could maybe talk a little bit about Dominic Reyes fight, people in Jones being comparable to the Johnny Hendricks fight in a way. I don't know. But I mean, Hendricks fell apart after that too. But
so did Reyes.
I would still say that John Jones's resume outweighs GSP's resume when you look at this list of names and where they were when he fought them.
Yeah,
he's fought everybody from the former champs,
future champs,
the up and comers, the older champs, the guys from other divisions that were supposed to be the shit, like Belfort, Sonnen.
Guys who end up kind of showing out of the UFC and becoming champs in other major organizations. You got like Bader and Brandon Vera, and you even have the quote unquote golden age of light heavyweight names also. You got the Rampage Jacksons, the Lyoto Machidas, Rashad Evans.
He's taking out Matashenko. He's even beat Ryan Bader, the current heavyweight champ over in Bellator.
I mean,
of course, Daniel Cormier,
Glover, Daniel Cormier twice.
He had his fight against Gustafsson, the first one, where people tried to say he lost that. He came back and whooped his ass.
Yeah.
I just
who can you really point to that's missing other than Stipe?
Nobody. He could retire after Stipe, and it would be the consensus. He's the best.
Yeah.
But I personally think he's not only going to want to beat Stipe. I think he'll want to beat Stipe's record too. It's only 3 defenses. If you can either tie it or beat it, because you could tie it and having a win over Stipe would definitely. There you go.
I would think he'd want to break it though.
But I feel that John Jones is highly motivated again. I feel like he's going to want to hang around for a minute. Dana White was trying to hint that he was going to retire after the Stipe shit. I think he's just trying to already build the pay-per-view sales for Stipe.
Well,
I don't see that happening.
Here's the thing too: is I think John Jones is a true historian of sports too. I think the legacy is a real big thing to him. To have not only the light heavyweight defense record, but then also having the heavyweight and had held both titles, ending his career virtually undefeated in the UFC. I think all that aligning is really big to him. And that's what he wants to leave as his stamp on the sport.
Right, and let's talk about Daniel Cormier with that for a minute. I mean, look, it's probably never going to happen, but there is somewhat of a valid argument when people talk about, he's a steroid cheat, and they like to point to the Daniel Cormier, the second fight on July 25th of 2017, where he got the knockout in the 3rd round, and then this B sample, I believe it was, they find a metabolite of turnable, and it was 14 picograms.
Yeah.
And that was in 2017. And then in late 2019, USADA changes the threshold for that testing to 100 picograms. If you test for 100 or lower, it is not flagged. It doesn't come out. And it's because those tests were too sensitive.
Yeah.
And you could literally pick that type of shit up anywhere. You could get that shit. And this wasn't from tainted meat, but I'm just saying you could get that shit from tainted meat. I mean... That's a valid argument there. People are they want to be like, he's a steroid. Did you know how little fucking shit that is? Yeah. So anyways, I'm just saying all the little asterisks that he might have in the steroid cheat thing is one of them. I mean, his other one was for the Anderson Silva one, where he tested positive for, it wasn't steroids, but it was some hormones that he said came from a dick pill.
Yeah. It was hormone blockers.
And that one, I believe, also went to an arbitrator where he found that he wasn't trying to cheat willfully, although they still gave him a suspension of it.
Yeah.
All right, and then the other one was for cocaine, and he was like, I like to party. You what?
So John Jones is also undefeated in court.
Yeah, true. And I don't even want to talk about things that happen that don't affect the cage because that doesn't really matter.
I just mean on the
But
USADA side of things.
These are the things that people would say in defense of him not being the greatest. Oh, well, he's a drug cheat or a steroid cheat. Is he though?
No.
I mean, yes, he has a failed test, but retroactively, it's not even close to. It wasn't even like he had 99. You have 14 fucking picograms. Most people don't even know what the fuck that is.
Yeah.
From what I understand, it's the equivalent of if you took 14 grains of salt and you tossed them into an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Yeah. That's how much shit was in his system. Yeah. I don't know if that's 100% fact, but that's the way it was explained to me. Now think about that for a minute. Mm-hmm. You can't see 14 grains of salt barely in your hand. Yeah. I'm not convinced that means he was doping up. I'm just not.
I'm not either. So. And really, I think the biggest thing when you talk about John Jones is his effect on the sport as a whole. I think that he has been kind of the one who, although like McGregor and all those guys took the sport in pay-per-views and took it on a whole nother level, but before then, Jones carried this whole fucking thing on his back for a good solid chunk of his early career, and that's a lot of pressure on a young guy.
Yeah.
And people always kind of made fun of like him for being like, oh, he's two-faced, or he's a fake like personality. But I think now he's so much more likable because he is not only the greatest of all time, but he's relatable. Not everyone's the greatest at everything in life.
I don't think he was ever two-faced, man. Like
but that was always the narrative.
No, I know. I'm agreeing with that. I'm not saying you're saying he is, but I know that narrative. And they're saying it basically because he's got a Bible verse tattooed on his chest. His dad was a preacher. And when he stopped a robbery, before that one pay-per-view, and he came out and he talks about Jesus after he wins, and he was trying to be a good role model. And then he does a bunch of shit in his personal life that shows that he's really not that great of a role model in his personal life. But here's my point. Is he supposed to be a role model in his personal life?
No. Is
he two-faced because he wanted to put a good face to the public, to the kids, or whoever they want to say is looking up to him?
Yeah.
Because that's why people want to shit on him, say he's bad, right? Because of the kids. So, okay. So he wanted to put the best face forward. Is that being two-faced, or is that what literally everybody does?
100%. I agree.
I agree. Just because you may not like it, because what he wanted to put forth had to tie in with religion, and oh my God, he's not perfect. So, oh look, how can he be talking about religion when he's drinking and running over pregnant ladies and he does cocaine? Oh my God. Yeah. You know how many fucking people do cocaine, bro?
Yeah.
Do you know how many thousands of people did cocaine this weekend here with Vegas? I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying. Yeah. Thousands in this one little city this weekend, bro. Yeah. Successful people who were at that fight.
Yeah.
Who have more money than most people listening to this fucking podcast. Again, I'm not condoning. I'm just saying this. So what? He's the scum of the earth. Yeah. Because he was a rich dude who did some blow. I mean, fuck's sake, man. Wake up.
Yeah. Well, and also, I think it also kind of is kind of something Joe Rogan had said leading up to this fight. Is like people want John to be perfect, but the biggest part about John that made him so great was how imperfect he was. The fact that he is the guy who doesn't train and fucking still comes out and beats Gustafsson. He's still the guy who, virtually people were saying didn't train his whole young career and fucking
he used to get fat
all these guys.
Camps, dude. Yeah. He was eating ice cream and doing a miniature version of fucking Patty the Batty shtick.
Yeah.
But for real. But he got on focus, dude. He's clearly not been doing that now. Yeah. I'm not saying he hasn't partied a little bit, but dude, look at him. That's real weight. That's how you grow into a real heavy. That's not gym muscles. He's not going to quit working out and shrink back down to 205 in 6 weeks.
Yeah,
good on him. He's the GOAT. I think we've about beat it to death here at this point, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about a little bit of the rest of the card real quick.
Yeah, real quick.
Alexa Grasso. Probably one of the biggest upsets. Definitely the biggest upset at 125 pounds.
In the fight she was losing, she capitalized on a Shevchenko mistake. Mm-hmm. Shevchenko went for a very ill-advised spinning back kick.
Yep.
I didn't like it when she was doing it in the early rounds. This was in the fourth. And man, Grasso just seized right on her back, right when she was missed with the kick, left her back exposed, and basically that was it. That was a nasty choke.
The squeeze was nasty. They showed the photo after. Freaking Valentina had, like, you know, like when you put like a rubber band on your hand and then like one part of your hand's all like white because it's like the circulation's gone. That was fucking Valentina's face had a whole like white mark across her chin. It was like, so that really wasn't even under her neck, but the squeeze that fucking Grasso was putting on her just shut it all off.
Yep, that was in the fourth round, and kudos to Grasso. It was a great win. I don't know. There's probably going to be a rematch.
Yeah, there has to be.
I don't really know how that one goes.
I don't either because
it really depends on Shevchenko. I think 'cause she was winning that fight. It was a close fight, but I had her winning all the rounds.
But so, she's
maybe
another,
the first.
She's another
Grasso
one
might have got the first.
that I have to question her motivation now. Like, because like where do you go from here? Because there's two different ways. She either has now, which I don't think we've seen necessarily in the octagon, but a steady, maybe diminish in interest in opponents.
Yeah.
Like she's constantly calling for this Amanda fight every single time she fights. She was talking about before the fight, and I do think she generally overlooked Alexa Grasso and thought that this was a lower level opponent that if I did some higher level shit that maybe she didn't see coming, and I'd get her out of here. And I think Grasso did what anyone who's an underdog in a fight should do. She sat back, didn't do anything stupid that was going to lose her the fight, and she let Shevchenko make the mistakes, and she just capitalized when the mistakes were made. And that's what any of these like guys who are pulling off, or women obviously, that are pulling off these big upset fights, you're seeing just the patience and the willpower by these fighters to wait for their moment and wait. It's kind of like what we saw when Leon Edwards, who got beat down by Usman for 4.5 rounds, but he just waited. And as soon as that fucking window opened, he capitalized. And I think that's very similar to what Alexa Grasso did last night. She sat back. She stayed in the fight. She never let it get too far gone where mentally she would be out of it. And then as soon as she saw her moment, she took her chance. And now she's the flyweight champion of the world.
Yeah, great job by her. What about Shavkat Rakhmonov?
That was
the hell out of Jeff Neal.
Dude, he also took some shots from Neal.
He did. He showed he's got a chin.
Yeah, he proved a lot last night. That was ends up getting fight of the night. Jeff Neal missed weight by 5 pounds too.
Yeah,
coming in, so
and that's significant.
Absolutely. So that's a
significant amount.
He's coming in a bit fresher than Shavkat also because he doesn't have to cut that extra 5. And
this guy is 17-0 with 17 finishes.
Fucking crazy, bro. Nobody's finished Jeff Neal until last night either. First time.
He was molly-whopping him, man.
Dude, it was crazy.
And he was taking, like you said, he was taking shots too. He winds up outstriking him on significant strikes, 113-69.
Yeah.
And then he gets the sub, a rear naked choke at the 4:17 mark of round 3, proving he is the real deal. Yeah. There are some contenders coming up here.
I think him and Colby makes a lot of sense.
Man, yeah. Colby can't fight right now, though, so I don't think we're going to see that for a minute.
That's not what I heard last night. Dana said that now Colby said that he's been cleared to compete and he's ready for a fight as soon as possible.
Then there must be some resolution with that trial because Colby was claiming some sort of damage to his brain.
Yeah, and he couldn't fight because of it.
And you certainly can't go take an MMA fight while you're saying that.
Yeah. So it must have been some kind of like settlement or resolution within that whole thing because, Dana White said last night that he wants to make that Shavkat and Colby fight. I think that's the fight to make it this week, Les. I think both those guys.
Well, if Dana says something, it's the 100% truth.
Yeah, that too.
Fuck
it. I'll take Shavkat. Give me Shavkat and fucking your boy. Fucking.
That's not my boy.
That's your boy, dog.
Nah, but I know you're talking about him and Chimaev.
Him and Chimaev makes a lot of sense.
I can see that, but I don't know if Chimaev gets down to 170 again after blowing that Diaz fight.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. But he proved he's the real deal, man. He proved he's the real deal.
Yeah.
Who else proved he's the real deal all the way around? It was Bo Nickel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bo Nickel coming in and smoking Jamie Pickett. 254 round one with the arm triangle.
Yeah, I kind of saw that coming.
Yeah.
Should put money on that too.
Yeah.
But I mean, but this is kind of what he needs to do. Like the UFC for one time in the history of the organization is putting on like an actual progression of opponents. Right? You know, in the Contender Series, I mean, me and you all always thought after the first fight that they could have signed him, but the second fight, you know, they bring in a little bit more seasoned guy and see how he handles it. Does the same shit. This time, you bring in a guy who is a veteran of 22 fights in his MMA career, and he just does the same shit he did to the guys who were 6-0 and 7-0.
Yeah, he just steamrolled him. There's some minor controversy about a possible shot to the balls that Pickett might have taken before he got down. And I'll say two things to that. Let's say it did happen. I don't think that means that he would have won the fight otherwise. I mean, the same result would have been, inevitable, I think. And number two, call me naive, but I really think Bo Nickel was telling the truth afterwards in a press conference when he said he didn't do it.
Yeah.
Because you can feel it when you need somebody. You can feel you hit the fucking cup, dude. It's pretty clear that what that is. And he was like, dude, if I hit him in the balls, I'll say I hit him in the balls. But I didn't. I don't know. Call me naive, but the guy doesn't seem to be a liar. I don't see what he would have to lose by letting the ref know. Yeah, dude, I just fucking need him on accident. He knows he's going to smoke that dude anyways. He doesn't need. I mean, that implies like he has to do that to win.
And then I
just don't see that.
And not only that, I also think it's not Bo Nickel's responsibility to make sure the rules of the octagon are being upheld.
No, it's not. I mean, if he did do it, it was inadvertent. Maybe he did it and he doesn't realize it. Unless that's the third scenario. Then it was inadvertent.
Yeah.
And it's not his job to stop the fight. Be like, time out.
Yeah.
You can't. You're just going to get
fucking
like, knocked out.
Help him out. I kicked him in the balls.
So,
like,
I mean, it's just something for the haters to throw some shade at Bo Nickel. But I thought he looked outstanding.
Yeah, I don't think we'll give him 5 minutes rest. He still does the same thing 5 minutes later, I think.
Exactly.
Another great fight we had was Drake Du Plessis versus Derek Brunson. A real test, I thought, for Du Plessis. I think
he's coming off that big win over Darren Till, but there's question marks around Darren Till going into that fight, which were possibly answered. I mean, he's not even in the UFC anymore. But Derek Brunson, everybody knows what's up with that.
Yeah.
And Brunson looked strong in that first round. He's a solid gatekeeper. I was thinking maybe Du Plessis wasn't ready.
Yeah.
But then he comes out in round two and really, really laid some punches on him.
To the point where Derek's corner threw in the towel.
And let's talk about that for a second. I mean, Derek was getting fucked up.
Yeah, it was bad.
And really kudos to Derek Brunson's team for fucking recognizing that. We don't see enough of that in mixed martial arts. It is what should be done. It's their job to protect the fighter. You shouldn't be getting excess damage like that. There's no need to go out in the further rounds and just continue. He's not going to recover in 30 seconds sitting on a stool with a couple guys yelling in his face and a sip of water.
No.
Dude was lit.
Not only that, also do you think that when you're a guy like Derek Brunson and you are where you are in your career, what does another round of brain damage do for you?
Nothing. It fucks you up.
Yeah. It
so
just shortens your career.
I thought that was spectacular. We see it in boxing. It's not a bad thing, and there's no shame here. It's not a pussy.
It's not. Yeah, it's not that. And you know what it is? It is more than anything. It is a move that is going to lengthen your career and save your brain. You know what I mean? Like there's just no necessity to the extra strikes that would happen inside the next 5 minutes of that fight, because Du Plessis had him completely compromised. There was no comeback. Like, that's the thing. Everyone always likes to kind of go back and forth with the whole throw in the towel argument, because they think of, well, this is MMA. What happens if he lands some crazy punch or kick and he puts Du Plessis out in the third round? Yeah, but what happens also if Du Plessis then decides to just beat his face in for another round, and then Derek Brunson loses years off of his life?
All these people that say that shit
because of that kind of shit.
All these people that say that's they don't get it, because it's not their head in there that's getting pummeled. So maybe in something they could understand, it's the equivalent of going into a casino with, I don't know, the deed to your house and walking up to a roulette table and going, I don't know, I'll put it on this black.
Yeah.
And it's probably not even that good of odds.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, that's serious consequences to take a
No,
blow to the head like
absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
And it's iffy. It's maybe he's gonna get some lucky shot and win.
Yeah.
Come on, man. It was good on them. Good for them. And Duplessis is gonna get something
Big
going on
fight
here. I
next.
mean, I don't see him beating the top of this division, but it'll be a good fight.
Yeah. What about your boy Cody Garbrandt?
You know, he fought an intelligent fight for once.
Yeah. He didn't get any crazy chinny wars.
He gets the win against big old Jalen Turner.
No, not Jalen Turner.
Or not? No, he didn't fight Jalen Turner.
Yeah.
What am I thinking? That was Gamrot.
Yeah.
It was fill-in. It was Trevin Jones.
Trevin Jones. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Had a brain fart there. But yeah.
Kind of a low action fight, but Garbrandt fought very smart.
He fought smart, and he fought, I think, with poise for once in his career. You know, I think he's always been drawn into these crazy firefights, and I think he just stuck to the game plan and, you know, was able to, you know, get a pretty solid route here.
It was a must win for that fool.
Oh yeah, I almost think he can walk away with this win.
I almost wish he would. I don't think this win. I don't think he's back. I don't think he's going to win a title. I don't really know if he should keep fighting. I'm not really on board with Cody anymore.
Yeah.
But he showed that he can still fight an intelligent fight at a UFC level and win.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. So I hope he hears this. He's really going to be loving that.
So another big fight. I thought Ian Gary passed a real big test last night.
That was a hell of a comeback for Ian Gary.
Yeah, he ends up getting put on the canvas real quick, and then he gets up and just puts on a striking clinic like he always does. I mean, he ends up outstriking his opponent 127-55.
Yeah, on significant strikes.
Yeah, leading to him winning by TKO.
And he does the McGregor strut afterwards, gets the nod from Conor. It was cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
It was cool. Overall, it was a good card, man.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool with the weigh-ins. They had Jake Gyllenhaal there with fucking Conor filming shit for Roadhouse, which is interesting to me. This must be a completely different Roadhouse where a UFC fight is factoring into it somehow.
Yeah, somehow.
Because I'm actually a big fan of the original Roadhouse, and there's no professional fighting in there.
Yeah, I'd imagine this is a more like one of those reboots, like rather than
it's got to be like he cleans up the Roadhouse, and then they're like, "You should come fight in the UFC," right? I mean, what else could
or
it be?
like he was the champion, and then he like gets stripped or something happens, something in his life, and then he goes back to his hometown where his Roadhouse is at.
Yeah, some shit like that. It's
got to be something along those lines.
But that was kind of cool. They even filmed.
They even filmed a fake fight.
You know that dude that he's with, Jay Hiron?
Yeah.
That he filmed that scene with. Back when I was waiting tables at P.F. Chang's when I very first moved to Vegas, I waited on that dude.
Oh, word.
Yeah, and I knew who he was. He's not one of the most well-known MMA fighters, but like I was
he's pretty known, I'd say.
I was like, I know Jay Hiron. Yeah,
that's cool.
I wasn't sure if it was him until like the ass end of it because he didn't say nothing about it. Then he gave me his credit card. I was like, oh fuck, okay. And then we talked for a minute.
I waited on Big Country Roy Nelson up there during COVID.
Did he get his eat on?
Dude, he got down.
Yeah.
He was there with his family. That's cool. It was right before he fought in Bellator. But
that's the dude we don't hear nothing from no more.
Yeah,
he doesn't even show up on social media, does he? I
don't think so.
Right. Fell off the earth. Well, whatever.
Yeah.
They say Mullets are coming back in. Maybe he'll see a resurgence.
He's back.
But anyways, it was a good card overall, man.
Yeah.
It was a winner. And seeing, circling back to the top of the card, seeing Jones really throw his dominance and cement his legacy no matter what at this point. That was pretty epic.
Yeah.
Let's touch on BKFC for a moment. Friend of the show, Connor Tierney, had his big London show, and that's some controversy there, and he walks away with the L at the last minute in a fight that, as far as we can tell at this point,
I thought
he was up 4-0 in the rounds going into the fifth.
Yeah.
He takes some shots. They stop it. The ref comes over, talks to him for a second, and he looks like he's good to go. He's like, yeah, I mean, he's breathing heavy.
Yeah.
It's fifth round of the fight.
And he's walking
Hands are up.
forward.
He looks perfectly coherent. He's talking normal. I don't see any issue. And the ref suddenly just waves it off.
Waves it off, yeah.
And it's a sudden TKO victory for Jake Lindsay. And Connor immediately walks over to the fucking, the side of the ring, throws his mouthpiece out, starts talking to David Feldman. At least that's who I think he was talking to. Talking about
Well,
some
and Feldman
bullshit.
agrees. That's the thing. Same thing with Chris Lytle too. Like, there's a lot of people that were a big parts of the BKFC agree with everyone on the outside that was a really bad stoppage.
Yeah, it seems like the ref just kind of came in and changed the outcome of the fight.
Yeah.
Without a good reason. Like, I've seen enough fights. I'm a former boxer. I've watched hundreds of boxing matches, countless UFC shit. I think all of us know what a fighter who's getting a standing 8 count and it shouldn't be continued. We kind of know what that looks like. There's like things you look for.
There's a compromising look, or
and Connor Tierney had none of that shit going on.
He wasn't like walking weird. He wasn't wobbly on his legs. He literally was just breathing.
Yeah, so it wasn't like the fight was waved
wasn't
off.
cut. He didn't have like a
in the
bad
midst
cut
of
or anything.
punches landing. He got a standing 8 count and it was good to go. And the ref was like, nah. I really strongly disagreed with it. Connor's probably going to get a rematch because Feldman's in his corner on this. And we'll see what happens.
Do you think he needs a rematch, though, or do you think he just needs a new opponent and move on from it?
Maybe he'll just move up and fight. Because I don't think Lindsay's done enough to warrant a title shot. No shade on him, but I mean, Tierney's record is, well, now it's, 7-2. It was 7-1, 8-1 going into this.
Yeah.
In bare knuckle. Fucking refs can really fuck shit up. Refs and judges.
Refs can fuck shit up, and then also you got to think this is a tough. Because we kind of talked about this a bit last time we talked about the BKFC, but I think there's a rough queue at what up there with Louis Palomino's belts, and it's kind of hard for me to fit Connor Tierney in like real soon after some shit like that, because I just feel like a rematch will take time. I feel like if he moves on and fights someone who's a better or higher ranked opponent, puts on a good show, we just kind of forget what happens.
Maybe he gets they give him some crazy shit like the loser of Mendez Alvarez.
Yeah, I'll take that. Let's talk about that for a sec. So we'll put a pin in that. I feel like, what happened to Connor Tierney was bullshit.
Like, yeah, that was bullshit. We both agree.
Bullshit. We agree, and it is what it is.
Rest of the card entertaining as it always is.
But now let's talk a bit about what the BKFC has just done last week.
Major signings from BKFC.
Huge. So we talked a bit about that card that was going to be Mike Perry and Chad Mendez and Ben Rothwell as like a whole card, but there was no real announced opponents. So then David Feldman comes out on Arrow Hawani this week and announces that the BKFC has just signed Luke Rockhold, Eddie Alvarez. They will be the opponents for Mike Perry and fucking Chad Mendez.
Yeah, Chad Mendez versus Eddie Alvarez at 165 pounds, Connor Tierney's weight class. And Luke Rockhold versus Platinum Mike Perry at 185 pounds.
Yeah.
My mind is still blown with those signings. And then Luke Rockhold comes on the show and goes out in various media and states that he is getting paid better in BKFC than he did in the UFC. And I don't see any reason to disagree with that. In fact, I believe they were talking about that on Joe Rogan's podcast.
And
where they
Joe validated that and said that he didn't think Luke would be lying about something like that. And he said that with all these signings that the BKFC has made, that they're actual, promotion to watch out for. Because I do think that a lot of people, as much as BKFC has become a big thing, these kind of signings, we've talked about this in the past, these are what makes this company into what it needs to be. You know what I mean? Now we got literally we're talking about a former UFC two former UFC champions in BKFC headlining cards in their first fights. It's just huge. It's huge. There's no other way to put it.
And these are guys that are not shot fighters. They're not over the hill. Man, that's going to be a hell of a night of fights.
Eddie Alvarez is going to be interesting to me. Because Eddie Alvarez is known to get into a war. And he's like such a dog already. Like, him and Mendez is going to be a fucking great fight.
Absolutely. We might as well announce this right now while we're talking about BKFC. We do have the BKFC's interim bantamweight champion, Reggie Barnett, joining our show next week. So the show after this, episode 162. So be sure to tune in there as well. We're really excited to be sitting down with Reggie. We've been lucky enough to have a lot of BKFC champions and fighters on, and we're excited to have another one join the show. The other interesting thing that BKFC announced with this card is that it's also going to be a $49.99 pay-per-view. I find that very interesting too. I don't know how that's going to work if you have the BKFC TV app and you're already been paying for it for a while. Because like Knucklemania was like $20 if you ordered it on Fight TV.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you had the BKFC app, you just got it, So I'm not sure how that's going to work, but honestly, I'll pay $50 for that pay-per-view. That's solid.
Yeah, it's a good pay-per-view.
I mean, I don't have any qualms with that.
And then you got Ben Rothwell still waiting on his opponent to be announced, but he's on there too. So
yeah, and Christine Faria versus Beck Rawlings.
Yeah, which is
defending her title on there.
Yeah,
that's solid shit, man.
Top to bottom.
Major signings. BKFC. This is that Triller money coming in. Remember,
it's got to be.
A couple months ago, we were talking about that BKFC had made some big moves at the end of the year, and we found out that they didn't even have that cash yet.
Yeah.
And Feldman came out and said, just wait a minute until that Triller money comes through. And now we're starting to see it right here, right now.
Yep. And we also have the heavyweight champion of the BKFC calling out one Francis Ngannou.
And don't think that that's not a crazy fucking thing that might actually happen. Because BKFC is pretty flexible. They'll do a one-off.
Yeah. I do think...
I'm not saying it's likely.
Anybody who's calling out Francis Ngannou for a bare-knuckle fight's got something wrong with
it. Francis Ngannou...
Francis is a dangerous man.
Belcher's face might get broken.
Yeah.
He'll wind up looking like that Johnny Cash tattoo on his arm, all bloated and fat.
That would literally be that fighting bare knuckle versus Francis Ngannou sounds like a worst case scenario in every single facet of any kind of thought I could have about fighting Francis Ngannou. Like, if you had to fight Francis bare knuckle, that is the worst way to fight Francis Ngannou.
You know a scenario where that
I'd fight him
could
in
happen?
MMA, boxing. I'd fight him in any other sport but bare knuckle.
So hear me out. Here's a scenario where that could actually happen.
Yeah.
Francis gets his big money boxing match first. He most likely loses that.
Yeah.
His next best option wouldn't necessarily be another boxing match. He might be able to take something like, they could probably offer him a $5 million, $8 million flat fee and pay-per-view points. That's the type of shit you could definitely charge 50, maybe even more for.
Yeah.
And it's bare knuckle. It's a whole different thing. We've seen boxers not necessarily have success. Francis could have great success in bare knuckle, far more than he could have in regular boxing, in my opinion. So it's not unheard of that they could be the second biggest payday for him.
Yeah.
And then he would still have a return to MMA that he could go to, which I think would be the third biggest payday.
Yeah.
It's just a scenario. It's possible. You never know. It'd be dope. I'm down with it. BKFC making moves.
Yeah, for sure. I want to say something about Francis Ngannou, but I think it's disrespectful, so I'll keep it to myself.
Oh, then you just tease everybody listening with that kind of thing.
Well, I just feel like Francis Ngannou, if he really wanted to, could just sit back and pick off all these people who are up and coming fighters in other sports for the next few years and just bank the fuck out. Think about if he just fought in the BKFC, had some crazy one-off not even crazy one-offs, but once a year fought whatever super fight for the BKFC and got paid a huge flat fee from him. But then in his off time from the BKFC, he just went to the PFL and won their $1 million tournament every fucking year. Could just literally sit on a fucking pot of money at the end of the rainbow for sure. Because he still has probably another 4 or 5 solid years of his career left.
If he signed with Bellator, they'd let him do BKFC as well. They let Michael Venom Page go over there. He was under contract, and they've already offered him a boxing and MMA.
Yeah,
but you're right. He could do something like that as well. But who knows?
Go anywhere.
Well, before we round out the show, let's touch on next week's UFC Fight Night. We have got Who in the main event?
Piotr Jan versus Merab. This is a good fight.
It's a good fight for Merab.
Think so?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's saying that he's going to be the guy to take over for Sterling. Everybody being Sterling's, team.
Yeah.
But he's on a great win streak. I mean, he's got a win over Aldo. He's got the win over Marias.
Yeah.
Cody Stammen, Dodson, Lopez. Nice streak.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you look at the last 4 for Petr Yan, as good as he is, he's got the loss to Sterling, even though it was kind of bullshit. He's got the win over Sandhagen, but then he's got the loss to Sterling that was solid.
Yeah.
The loss, and then the loss to O'Malley.
Mm-hmm.
So I say it's a good fight. I think Merab wins this personally.
I think it's
I
kind of a career-defining fight if you're Petr Yan, though. I think you have to win this fight. I think
he's in a spot.
He's in a real spot because, I mean, kind of similar to what happened to Marlon Moraes when he was champion. He lost Cejudo, and then he lost just like all these fights after all the guys who were up and comers in the division. Like, I'd hate to see that happen to Jan also, but that's kind of where his career is trending if he loses this fight.
Yep.
It's like he would then be kind of a ledger of, are you ready to fight for the title? Well, can you beat Petr Yan? Which is crazy to think because just, 18 months ago, we were all sitting back kind of thinking he was the best bantamweight in the world, and like you had to bring everything you had to beat this guy. It's pretty nuts.
Wow, things change pretty quickly.
Yeah. But with all that being said, I'm taking Yan.
We'll see what happens. I think that about wraps the show for this week.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thank our sponsor once again, Binoid CBD. Best deals can be found where, Paul?
SWATMA.com, where you can head over there, click the gear button, and support the podcast. Then you can head over to Instagram and follow us at SWAT MMA Podcast.
Be sure to tune in next week. Reggie Barnett Jr., BKFC interim bantamweight champ.